Right now, Simone, do you have any words that you want to share about strategy and authority before we start the conversation?
There's a great tuning into the body when I find peace with my strategy and authority. And when we had in our BBD call, we had an amazing guest, Jeremy. And as comfortable as I am with my own strategy and authority, I feel like the way he articulated using his own distinct way of talking about strategy and authority was really fantastic to even find like a deeper peace within me. And so also what I love about these master classes that we'll be working through is that not only when we find the peace within ourselves with our own strategy and authority, but also understanding others. You know, it brings so much compassion when we can understand that, well, people are different than us and this is how they work. So I'm super excited about this series that we're entering and so grateful that each of you are here with us and so excited to see how this wisdom lands in your body and facilitates peace, love, joy, compassion in your own life and in your own healing journey, in your own journey. So
Yeah, thank you, Simone. And strategy comes from the type, the aura type. So we are in Unlock Design, we see it as 4 aura types. In some other places, they speak about 5 aura types. We go back to what Ra said from the beginning. So generator aura, projector aura, manifestor aura, reflector aura. So that's your aura type, and that's what sets the strategy. And then we have the inner authority. That's depending on what centers you have defined. So we start from, what is it? We start from the left, from the right and go to the left. If you have the emotional center defined, you're emotional authority. If you have not the emotional defined, but the sacral defined, you're a sacral authority. If you don't have the emotional or the sacral, but you have the spleen, you're a splenic authority. And it goes up all the way, like ego is the next one, and then self projected, and then you are a sounding board if you don't have anything in the body graph. And you could say, when you're a reflector, well, there is none at all. So these are concepts that, we're not going to go in today in explaining them. That's part of what we're going to do in the course, in the foundational course that is coming after today. So, but that's the basics. That's what we're speaking about today. And you probably know, if you have your basic chart, it's going to say, you have your striding authority there. So that's what, even basic questions today, like I always say, there are no stupid questions. So even basic questions are welcome. If there's anybody on the call that is newer to these systems. Yeah. So who wants to start? Who feels warmed up enough to start? Share something or ask something.
I can start. Although my camera, as soon as I sign on, look at that. You guys all put your attention. It goes whoop. Anyway, Flower, my cat, also apparently wants to talk, so she might be howling in the background. So I'm not leaving a baby unattended. That's my cat, one of them. So let's see. I guess, well, my question goes back to like relationship stuff, because I'm in a relationship with a French generator. So if you're both generators, we're both pure generators. We both only have the middle centers. I only have 2 and he only has 3. And together we don't make emotions. But, but part of it is that, and part of it is just who's waiting for who to respond. Like, that's my biggest question, is like, what do you do?
So are you both sacral authority?
Yes.
Yeah, it was you're generated with sacral authority. I mean, I love the word flow from generators. And when you find your flow in yourself, you often find your flow with the other. But when you're not yet in your own flow, then it can kind of be that waiting for the other, waiting to respond to the other. Um, so maybe tell me a little bit more about the difficulty, of like where it is that you feel like you are, not in your naturalness.
Um, well, I think part of it is that we both have so many open centers. And for me, that's always been a problem because I feel so much into other people's energy. And I think he does too. And so I was just feeling Simone on this too. It's like I realized he has 36 in his IQ. And so I think he creates his own emotional turbulence.
Mm.
When he's in shadow, and I think I pick up on it and we just bounce off each other. And I don't know, that's another thing to talk about with aura types too, since we both have those type of auras. I don't know if we're just like totally enmeshed in each other, but there's a lot of starting and stopping. I think that, in one of the classes, Simone talked about how you're always dating your wound. So he would be my wound of rejection. And so we each feel that the other is rejecting. And so we just had a huge miscommunication over a missed phone call that like turned into, got churned in the head as something other than that. But I feel that back and forth with him a lot. It's like, am I waiting for him or is he waiting for me? Or maybe we're both waiting for each other. And it just gets very confusing. And it may just be because of the rejection, that we each feel. I didn't realize I had it that much until I started dating him. And I was like, okay, well, it's probably in me if it's in him. And so.
No, I get it. And for me, human design is the science of, of sovereignty, because it's about you being differentiated, being unique, and being yourself. And from that place, it's like where you live. So if you have the feeling like you're waiting for everything around you, that is something where I often feel, even projectors, like projectors and generators, sometimes we feel like, we are backbound and we can't do anything and we have to wait for the other. And I don't like to use these systems so that it feels like we are, we are less free. And for me, the Venus sequence is amazing in the gene keys. It's helping us to look at what we call, for example, the Eden loop, to see these, like, the emotional and the mental patterns that happened, and that often has been there in childhood, or we didn't have proper mirroring from somebody when we were children, or we were shamed, or we were, abandoned. So for me, when there is this kind of staccato in relationships, like I go, I don't go, I go, I don't go, it is the Venus work where I go back, and it is looking at conscious Venus, conscious Mars, and then dare to look even deeper on conscious Venus and conscious Mars. It's helpful. And then, like, Eden too, looking at the attractor is more kind of the sexual expression, maybe the desire expression that, that's created, and that can also show a dynamic with the other person. So Venus work, and finding your own flow, your own sovereignty, and trusting that, even when the other might react, because that's often the thing. If you take responsibility for yours, you can always hope that he's going to rise to the occasion, but you don't know. So allowing the other to show their true colors when you are in your own sovereignty. I've open emotional center, nothing in it. I've been trying to, put the ground for the other to be in their true self by walking around eggshells and like doing all that. I didn't give people the possibility to show their true colors. And then at the end, when so much is kind of like built up in the relationship and you really understand who that person was, you kind of wish that you would have known 5 years ago. So I would say, be yourself, allow the other to show their true colors, do your Venus work. And yeah, as a generator, feel into the flow, every moment. The only thing that exists is now. The past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist. What feels right now? What do I want to eat now? How do I want to interact with you now? And be you.
Thank you. That's very good advice. Although what's funny is I've only been dating him, well, since like September. So I've been through your Venus and then the big Venus. Somehow we survived. I think that didn't help us any to be, when I was in my emotional, like, you know, freaking out moments. So somehow we survived 2 Venuses. So I don't know that we could survive a third.
And good emotional environments, and this is for everybody. I mean, it's a personal question, but everything I'm saying, if you're a generator with an open emotional center, this is for you. Everything that we've said, I feel like in an environment, because if you have an open emotional center, even when you come together, then it means that there is a lot is going to come in there. And I can just see when I'm with people who have open, like in partnerships where the other person have open emotional, like there can be something as cute or stupid as like watching, on the phone, they have this thing where they rescue animals, and the cat that was on the street and it was completely like, and then they rescue it, and I can like sit with that with a partner that has completely open emotion, and we can just, the tears just come out. So to also allow something beautiful, something sweet to be part of your emotional truth, and because when you have an open center, when you are in a connection chart, that is where it from the outside can come in. So what kind of emotion, what kind of sweetness are you allowing in from the outside? And then what you're saying for him, like as well, there is a lot of turbulence that's created and bubbling up. So how can you be more aware in what emotional environment, what emotional dynamism you're allowing to play in those open emotional centers?
Thank you.
So I see some new people: Eugenia, Heather, Philippe, even Tracy. Yeah, that's what I see on the screen. So who wants to share something or ask something, point something out?
Bella, we do have a question in the chat that we could use as a jumping off place too, about what is I understand how defined centers can help us to navigate through life. But what is the purpose of channels?
The way that I see channels is that they are themes. So channels are when you have two hanging gates that meet and then create a channel. What does that mean? Channels create definition. You can have activated gates hanging from open centers. So if you're a reflector, you're going to have 26 gates like hanging from different open centers. And that's not a consistent theme in your life, because they're open centers. That's you, but you're also filtering a lot of things in your life. When you have two gates that meet, which create a channel, it creates definition. You have the 31 from the throat connecting to the 7 in the G. Well, you're going to have a defined throat center and defined G. So it's a theme, it's a fixedness. You're always going to live out that 31-7, that leadership, that voice of a leader. So the channels for me are super important. They are themes. If you have just one channel, that is going to be a very powerful theme in your life. You work with somebody, maybe it has the 49-19, that tribal channel of knowing what's needed, and that sensitivity, and also in the low frequency, that reaction and codependence that can happen. Like, so much in your life is going to revolve around that. If you have somebody who has like 9 defined centers and they have 7 channels, then they're going to be very much their own person, not so much coming in, very much going out, but it's going to be less focused on one theme. So the easiest way to speak about channels, what I would say is it's a life theme that's there. The same way that in a way your incarnation cross, your activation sequence has those themes that are going to be there in your life. The channel is even kind of more fixed you. That's the theme that you are living out in the world, and that other people are going to be influenced, people that are around you are going to be influenced by that theme that you're carrying around with you wherever you go. And knowing as well, like this is a little bit more advanced, if you have a channel and somebody else has half of that channel, that gate, you are, possibly going to overpower that person. So go back to the 31-7. Somebody else has the 31, but not the 7. They have the voice of a leader, but they don't really have maybe the direction of the G center. So that person might feel like maybe even use the arrogance of the 31 against you because they feel overpowered. So knowing that also those channels are creating dynamics with other people, especially if they only have half the channel. If they have the whole channel, it's going to be a theme that you're sharing, with that other person. So Lena, let me know if that's was answering your question. Yay, and Ashley's on. Hi, Ashley. Our third person in our super team. Did you want to say something, Ashley, before we move on to the raised hands? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I don't really know. Since I'm late, I don't know where you guys are at. So I need to orient a little. So keep going.
Okay, perfect. So I will go with Philip right away.
Hello.
Hi.
So I just happened on here. I've been following all three of you for a while on YouTube. And I've been in this experiment for about 14 years. I'm an emotional generator 6'2". And I've been just enjoying you all so much. And then I just plugged onto something and there you were, and this is happening. So I was like, whoa, live. That's so crazy. So yeah, I don't necessarily have any questions. I'm always
so I have
impressed.
a question for you.
Yeah, please.
So I see the deconditioning process as a spiral dynamic. And I've done one round, like 1 7-year round in my spiral. And I don't know what the second round, because I haven't finished it, is gonna do. But it's an honor for me to speak to somebody that's been in it for, in that threading of the deconditioning. So I would love to hear a bit about your journey and your relationship to human design throughout these 14 years.
Oh my gosh, thank you. What an amazing question. It's been pretty spectacular. So as a 6'2", I came off the roof at 49 after being in a spiritual community following a guru for 25 years, which was my whole on the roof period. And I came to human design at that moment, perfect timing. I met my current partner. We've been together all this time and we've been doing the experiment together. So it works out really well. He's also a 6'2". And yeah, we both had just discovered design previously in the year before. So that's been really exciting because we just get to be role models together and walk around in the world. We live in Asheville, North Carolina. I haven't thought about entering into the second round at all. When you just said that, it was like, that's so crazy. I had just read some meme earlier today on Facebook that said something about, I think it was Chaitanya, like it was like something about when you reach the 7-year point, you just wake up. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like it seems like it gets more and more granular, the experience, and more subtle and nuanced, definitely. And yet there are some really basic things that I relearn over and over again about my design, about strategy and authority. I had been so deep in the kind of devotional, disciplined way of life for so many years when I was on the roof that I've taken this really lightly, even though it's an experiment. I've had to work overtime at the beginning to not turn it into another dogma or another like rule kind of thing. I loved what you said earlier about, anytime that it feels like it's constraining me or making me less free, I'm like, I walk the other way pretty quickly. I also have been involved with the gene keys to some extent, did the original deep dive in California with Richard and a few other people. That was amazing, and a very early Venus sequence. But I'm really interested in doing the Venus sequence again because I think it's developed thanks to y'all. I think such a big, seems so much better now. I've just been, it's so interesting. My biggest work in both are two places. One is emotional definition and trying to figure out, I have the 1949. It's funny, you represented both the 1949 and also my partner has the alpha and I have the half of it. So you were talking about both of those things. It's so funny. But that emotional wave, that tribal emotional wave is so crazy. And I'm an artist. I'm an actor and a singer and a dancer and I do a lot of stuff with my writer. I do a lot of stuff with my emotional wave, but it just kicks my ass all the time. And, you know, when that ratcheting thing goes, boom, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, literally like, I could easily like take the cyanide or something, you know, some days. And that has not changed. As a matter of fact, it's even more clear, if anything. So it's not, I love the thing, you know, that Ross says, you know, this is not an experiment to make you feel better or make your life better. It's just so that the journey is more maybe enjoyable or clear. I'm not sure. You know, there's, my life is certainly rich and I am more who I am than I used to be, which brings up the other point, which is that I have a completely open G center. So I'm always looking to find out who I am, never to know. I always say it's only in those moments when I realize that I'm everything that I can rest for a moment in that search for who I am, which leads me to great things too, like this right here.
Do you have anything that you would say to other emotional authorities that you feel like if you would have known that 14 years ago, it would have been helpful? Is there anything that you would put out there that could?
I guess just to, you know, I say this to people all the time who I meet, you know, just to realize the gift of having the ups and downs and really embrace and enjoy them. And also, I've learned to not inflict it on other people, you know, so I have that hermit part of my profile. And I use that to get me into that kind of, you know, when I'm on the down wave, when I'm feeling nervous or not sure or anxious, or that's how I feel the down wave very often, you know, sometimes depressed as well. I'm out in nature or I'm out in the city. I have the external markets environment, so I have to go downtown, you know. And yeah, so it's just, you know, that whole thing of just doing you and knowing that I can say to people, it's better for you if I'm not around you right now. You know, although it's interesting, my partner gets off on it too. Like sometimes he loves my emotionalism. He has an undefined center, and sometimes it just is enlivening and rich for him. So you never know.
You know, I love that. As long as it's not projected, it can be rich. And also, I have the core wound of rejection in the gene keys, and I was dating somebody.
Me too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So much in common. So many coming up. So many synchronicities. Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, it was hard to understand, like, no, it was very interesting to understand from that point, because with my mom, and my dad, they were always in their emotional waves, they're emotional. But with this particular partner, I could see that it wasn't my fault, it wasn't his fault, it was nature's, that some days he would wake, he was a 5'1", he was powerful, so some days he would just wake up, and what he wanted to do is to stay in bed and watch Netflix or something. When I could understand that it wasn't about me, and it wasn't a rejection of me, I could, like, there was even something kind of like, you wake up in the morning and you take off the curtain and you're like, what's the weather today? Like, it became almost like kind of that thing. And it was completely fine, because when I could feel it just as the weather. And some days when it's cloudy, it's actually really cool to be able to just not have to go to the beach, or, so I could learn, I could learn to appreciate it as a completely open emotional. So I agree with what you say, and I can feel it in my own life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Simone.
I just love how you brought up that you use your PHS, your environment, to experience your emotional wave. That was, what a powerful idea to share with us all, and to think about that. I love
Cool.
And so if you're in one of those downs and you go into your external market, can you talk about that? What happens for you in that experience?
Yeah, it's interesting because there are times when my partner, Max, sends me, like, he's like, you need to go into the town now. Because he'll see me in that place, and it's like, I can feel I can get very stuck and diffused and distracted. And so when I go to the coffee shop, or I go downtown, I have a friend who owns a shop, a clothing store, and I'll just go down, and then I just start walking around. And it's not about me, since it's external, it's me being passive in the environment. So just witnessing humanity, it starts to flow. I've also been studying a lot of this, like, lower sub stuff lately. So it also feeds into my motivation of hope. And I can just feel like that it makes sense that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And it becomes clarified, like I'm witnessing it, it becomes like part of a whole. I write plays, and there's, sometimes I ask, why am I doing this stuff? Like, if I'm in the low wave, there's always these questions like, why am I doing this? What's the point of life? What's the point of existence? And what's the point of me writing or performing or doing any of this other stuff? So when I get out there, it gives me a different perspective. Somehow, all of a sudden, it's not so heavy. I guess that's the way it is. And I can even find moments of joy. I'm not like trying to get out of my low point, because I know that's a natural, the weather's going to change when it's going to change. And I have, by the way, in all these years, not been able to time it. I used to want to do that. Like, I was like, okay, if I like make a schedule, I can see, like, can it be like it's my moon, my women's menstrual cycle? Like, what, you can like put that on a calendar, but I've not been able to do that with my emotional wave at all, which has been frustrating. So it just does its own thing, and I get to ride it. I like the phrase, riding the emotional wave.
Yeah.
If you're riding it, you can either be like tumbled by it, like if you're body surfing, and crash to the bottom or crash to the rocks, which happens on occasion if it hits me when I don't expect it. But often I just get to ride it by going into my environment, or going into my hermit moment. And I actually would love to, like Bella was saying, that her partner would say, I'm just going to watch Netflix all day. I'm like, my transference and the motivation is guilt. So I have a hard time with that one sometimes. Just like, I'm feeling this, I'm going to do this without feeling guilty.
I also
So
have
that's,
hope as my I have hope as my motivation, so I know
oh
that.
my gosh, that's so sweet. I think that's very helpful for a 49 core wound to have hope as a motivation.
Well, I love the laughter and thank you for, I also the thing that you can't be logical about the abstract part of your chart, like the emotional. There is no logical. So trying to time it or, that's not the way. It's to sense it. That's the sensing part of the circuitry. So it's to sense it, is to be with it, is to also, play with it, write it, but not to figure it out. You're not going to figure out your emotional wave.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that richness with us and, stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Like, I'd love to have you on the call.
Great. I love it. Thank you. I'm so enjoying. Thanks
Yeah.
for the invitation. I have also I was just going to say that even though I'm a generator, I only have one generating channel and my other channels are all projector channels. So I always feel like I'm a projector with a sacral.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, that goes into even looking at definition and like even splits. So I am a generator, but I have in my G center, I have 6 gates and I have this powerful like alpha as well. That is my purpose and my attraction. So many times I feel like I'm a projector and I'm here to save the world and, 4-6. And then I have to remember that I am this like kind of like, 34-57. That's just like feeling in the moment what's right. So, finding a way of being the whole of who I am. And if I'm just being a projector, I'm not living my truth and my body is going to start to tell me things, So yeah, so really feel into all the parts of our design and see what is the integral truth of who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to you, Tiffany. You've had your hand up for a while. Good, it's an electronical hand, so you didn't have to hold it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Philippe. That was so wonderful. I'm a projector and splenic, but I always love to hear how it's for other people because then they are my mirror, and in the other, I also see, of course, a part of myself. So wonderful. And actually, my question also tied in a little bit about what you're saying because my motivation is also hope. And what one of my curiosities is in this moment is that I noticed that as a projector, I have this when I set an intention or say to myself, okay, I'm going for this, I put a lot of hope into it. And what I feel in my body is that I cling to the hope and then I wait because I already set that intention, and then I don't move into the action, and then I wait on my hope, and I'm like, no, I'm going to trust myself. I set for this, and I'm hoping and I'm hoping, and I'm going past that point of you really need to move right now, and I'm not doing anything. I'm still in my hope, still waiting, still saying no, I'm holding on. But then going past that moment, like for instance, I need a job right now, and I'm still hoping for the best. It's going to be okay, it's going to be all right, and I'm doing whatever I can. But then if I look back, it has always led me to a certain point where I needed to make a choice that wasn't according to my design or what I really wanted to do, but I made a choice because I was in a point that it was necessary and I couldn't do anything else. And I want to do it different now because of all the stuff that I've learned, but also because I do believe in myself. I do believe in my authority and in my strategy and in this system and how I can learn to function best as I can. And hope is a big part of that. But yeah, I'm very curious how will I be able to do it differently this time and not go past that point, or I'm already a bit past that point, and still hold on to, and I get in my freeze. My body gets in this freeze. It sort of stops moving, and everything slows down and down. And I'm like, in my head is racing. My head is going like, what are you doing?
No, there is something with motivation that it's a lot for others somehow. Our motivation is for the world in a way. So the way that I see the hope, which is the second color, is that we are here to inspire the world without, with embodying that flow and that knowingness. It's not a knowingness that everything is going to be all right. It's much more a knowingness that everything is all right. And that's why I can live out that naturalness, that ease, that second line. So when you are putting it into the future, and we were saying it before in the beginning of the call, like it's actually now, and you are a splenic authority. So it's in the now. So, if you are kind of like, if you are in the future as a splenic authority, I feel like you're kind of, outside your core stability. So I would say hope is in the now. It's about the inspiration in the now. It's about the flow and the ease in the now. And it's not attaching to an outcome in the future, expecting an outcome in the future so much. It's about finding that flow in the now that is so amazing, so that the future cannot be anything else than amazing in a way, or, more towards that is how I feel like you could navigate it, because it sounds like you are losing a bit of momentum and centeredness by living something that's not even here yet for me. And I would love to have Simone or Ashley maybe. I mean, that's not your motivation, but you see me and Simone all the time, and you probably see us in the true self and in the transference. So what would you say for a hope motivation? This feels like maybe clinging on to hope when it's actually time to do something.
Mm-hmm. I think that as long as you're going to feel that not self, you're going to feel that bitterness, or you're going to feel that, I don't think it's not necessarily bitterness. I kind of have started to understand that a projector's bitterness happens over time. And I think that, like with anything, you just have to get sick and impatient with the waiting, and not from an ego place, like more from like you almost have the energy to do it. It's like something was gifted to you, and it comes through you. And this is something that I'm like getting intuitively. It's not anything linked to design or anything like that, but I feel like there comes a point in everyone's life where it's like, enough hoping, it's time for me to take responsibility and take action with something. And I think that it's not for projectors to go around like initiating things. It's not for anyone to go around initiating things. We're responding to life. And when you don't have an invitation and you're still being hopeful, maybe an invitation will come, but we can't like just like imagine it to come and then it shows up on our doorstep. We actually have to do something to get that invitation to come. You can't just wait for something to show up. Like, you're going to be looking in the classifieds. You're going to be looking around for things and seeing like, what do I want to put my energy towards? And then maybe the fact that you are in that interim is because you're meant to discover what it is you want to give your energy towards, and the things that you think that you're wanting to give your energy towards is not like the best thing for you, and there's things that are unfolding for you to put you in the right space. So the hope is healthy and good when it's that you know that everything's correct in the now, and I didn't get that job, but I know that I'm moving towards the next best thing in every moment. And I think that it's for everyone to discover what is their passion, where are they wanting to take their lives, and how are they wanting to contribute into the world. And you're discovering that. And I think that don't you have the 24, the silence, or there's a lot of passivity in your
I have the presence in my pearl, and I have the 23 in my culture, and what I really resonate with what you just said. I send out my resume, and I do react to things. It's not that I don't do anything, but when I don't get a job, it's not like I'm upset by it or worried by it. I'm like, okay, then that was not for me. That's fine. But I also have, which I hear you speak about a little bit. I have the 17 in my evolution, So that's my challenge, to see. And when I can't see, then it makes me restless. And not seeing what the future will hold for me, that makes me restless. While I know it's all about in the moment for me and being present in the moment, it's still that farsightedness that I do crave in such a moment. Like, yeah, I'm okay now, but I have also this solid piece. I don't know which thing it is, but I want to feel that solid ground as well. And that's a little bit looking forward to, okay, what's gonna what's gonna come in.
I think
Yeah.
everyone reacts and responds differently to the gap where you're in the interim of something. And I feel like we really find out who we are when we're in between. And you can really notice and witness that reactivity or that repression or however the expression comes out when we're in the gap. That's where you learn who you are, because it's super uncomfortable. And sometimes there's that, the gap is meant to be that rest and to be that retrieval or retrieve where you are able to just like come back to yourself. And sometimes it's because you're pregnant with something, but we don't necessarily know what's happening until, you know, we look back at things, because when we're in it, and if it's so new, because we're in the gap, not knowing, you know, where we're going, we've known where we've been and we know we're not there anymore. And I think that once you get that solid ground, you're like, wow, that was the gap, you know. But that's where the hope and the awesome quality of that comes in, is that we're able to just sink into that everything's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And that solid ground is coming. It's like you can feel, I'm pretty sure if you tapped in, I think that if you can think about yourself as leaping, I know that you can tell if you're like on the descent up or if you're about to hit the ground. Can you feel that? Like where you are at in your arc of adventure, like where you're at? Can you tap into that and feel into where you're at?
I understand what you say, but I can't at this point. No. I think that's a bit what I started my question with. It's I feel I feel mostly okay in the now, and okay with how I approach things. Staying in the positive, not as that positive mentality, but just being okay with the now. But I'm also observing my past and looking at how have I done this before, and really wanting to do it differently this time. So yeah, I don't know, but maybe I'll know next call. I don't know.
No. I would just feel into, I feel the 32 and the 42 for you. You don't have to have it in your design, but I feel
Yeah,
both.
I do.
Okay. I feel the guardian.
32.
And I feel
Yeah.
that, yeah, okay, I feel those for you. And I feel like if you can feel into that preservation and veneration of the 32, like it's the guardian of something. It's the guardian of your past. It's the guardian of the future. It's the guardian of your present. And it's like, what are you carrying with you? Because you've taken things with you on your journey. And maybe some of it is the weight of the past that you're still holding on to. And also that 17 gets very narrow-minded focused. And it's like, we can't even see the doors available to us because we're like really looking at like, it's got to be this. And a lot of that is trauma response, you know? So if you start to integrate and heal that trauma that you have, you're able to open up to a wide new perspective because you're not feeling unsafe in where you're at now. And you can be like, I'm ready to go through a new door. I don't have to go through an old door, you know? And so deciding what you're going to set down with that 32 and bring forward, like, what are you preserving? And then that 42, it has to have completion. So in order for you to begin anew, sometimes we're in the interim so long because there's still doors shutting, there's still things ending, and we're letting that completion process happen. I think we're about to have like I don't know if it's a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse on Wednesday or Thursday or something. My friend Johanna was telling me about it.
Yeah,
But
Thursday.
yeah, there's just something about this energy. And if the 32 is like this guardian or this portal keeper, it's like allow, we're in 35.6, maybe have shifted into the next one, but that's a portal keeper as well. So I feel like just like let it suck all of that, the things that need to die and end, and like lighten your load, because that's where you're going to feel lighter, and that's where the hope will sustain you more and more. You can't like float off in your balloon, your hot air balloon, when you have so much weighing it down. So it's like, what do you want to throw out of that? Like, and just like find that space in you right now to do that while you're waiting. And then when it comes, it'll come, and you'll have the right invitation, and then it'll be that you'll feel that full body yes, like that's where I want to give my energy to. I feel alive in this moment. So that's kind of the perspective or advice that I could give you. So the 42 and the 32 are calling you.
Well, thank you very much. And Bella too. Thank you.
Which is about celebration. The now is the only thing that exists. The past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist. Your second color of motivation is going to show you in the now. Live from your sacral, live from your inner authority or spleen. And you know, I wouldn't even like the feeling I don't want to do it as before. It's even guilt in that. You're never going to have a better life
I
by
have that one
coming
as
from
well.
no, into that second color of naturalness of ease. You're 4-6,
Yeah.
you're in the heart of life. You're
Yeah.
cellularly, your sixth line knows about the future because it's a cellular resonance, but it's that's your body. So it's all about being in the heart of life, doing what you love in the moment right now with the people that you trust. For me, it's like whenever you get lost in the past or the future, you are dissipating, like you are diluting the energy. And I want you to be here in embodied right now. And I want to be inspired by your embodiment.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Avantika or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes?
Avantika. Yeah, thank you. I'm a little bit like Philippe. I sort of just happened to see this in my inbox and I was really surprised. So this is great. The fact that I can, ask you my question. Just to give you a little bit of context, I'm on the verge of like a huge transition that's about to happen in my life, planning to move next year across the world, go back to school, start like a new endeavor. And so there's a lot of new things that I'm ushering in. And I guess by the way, I'm really new to human design. So I've probably just like been wrapping my head around it over the last 2 months or so, and the gene keys as well. And I'm really interested in knowing how I can really harness and utilize the gates that are defined. I'm not even sure if I'm using the right terminology. I'm so sorry. But if I can tap into that, and I think I watched in one of your videos somewhere that, these can be the defined channels can really be a source of strength if we, recognize them and learn how to tap into that and use those kind of as like superpowers. So I have these defined gates, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on, how I can cultivate them, how I can at least, at the very least, become more aware of what that means for me in my life and how I can, utilize them. So I guess maybe should I just tell you what they are, or would it be easier to see it?
I mean, I would say this to just like go back to basic, because this is a basic, like, I want us to understand the basics. Wherever you have definition, you don't really have to do anything to harness it, because that's who you are. It's fixed in you. If you have those defined gates, if you have those gates and defined centers, they are you. I would use the gene key to read about how is the expression of this defined gate in a low frequency, how is the expression in a high frequency. So using the gene key, whenever you have a gate that is defined in an open center, not a colored in center, an open center, that's where you want to more feel into, okay, how am I influenced in this sense? How am I reacting from this place? Because when there's openness, like maybe even that's what you've been read somewhere, the open centers are an amazing possibility for wisdom and an amazing possibility for awareness of how, you respond to life or how you are conditioned by life. So there is a lot of freedom to, to kind of like to cultivate in the open centers where you have defined gates. And often if you have, for example, a center with just one gate, an open center with just one gate, that's going to be a theme for you, because you're going to have to learn to become wise about that thing. Do you see what I mean? Where you have definition, it's you.
Okay.
You kind of want to gauge if you're expressing you in a low frequency or in a higher frequency. So, and it's more where there's openness that you're like, oh, how can I harness that? Because it's not consistent. But for me, I'm always going to be a leader for good or for bad. That 31/7, it's always going to be there. And I don't really have to like, I don't have to go look for it because it's there. But for example, my 61 and my 11 in open head and ajna, my inspiration can be colored by what everybody else is thinking and everybody else's psychosis. My ideas in an otherwise completely open ajna, my idealism can be colored as well. So I want to be more careful when I have an open center with a hanging gate as when I have 31/7 where it's all defined. That's just me, and I want to see, okay, am I doing this for good or for bad? Am I in arrogance or am I in leadership? So do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Most of the defined gates are in defined centers for me, but I'm seeing like 2 in open centers, like the 24 and the 50. So I guess like that's where I'll dig in a bit deeper to see what that means for me. And what about the design versus personality? Like, any comments about that?
Yeah, so 24 and 50, I would say, where in your life is the data corruption? Where is the data corruption, whether it comes from you or somebody else? In 24, where are you in patterns that aren't serving you? So maybe it's super cool that you're kind of going out from the current balance of how your life is set up. You're going out of the patterns and you're moving somewhere else. Like I feel like you are accumulating wisdom with that 40, that 24 and that 50. 50 would be the data corruption and the 24 would be the patterns. So it's like, just what you were saying that you're going to do next year shows me that you are accumulating or gathering, nurturing the wisdom of those gates. And what I would say about the conscious and unconscious, or the red and the black, is that, I mean, you're more aware of where it's black, and where it's red is more going to be kind of reflected back to you as you live. It's there. It's even stronger in a way. When I was studying with John Martin for my certification, he was looking at people's chart just red, because he said that's the only part in your chart you can't manipulate. So when somebody would have no channels in whole red, he's like, this person is very unstable. They are like a reflector, or they are like this person, because what the red is defining is what you can't manipulate. So in a way, looking at your human design, it could be, this is an inquiry or experiment, who you really are. So I know for me, what I have left, I have the 34/57, I have the 31/7. That's completely in red for me. So, maybe look at the black and take off the red, look at the black. It's like, this is who I think I am. Interesting. I can play this really well because this is who I think I am. Let me at least play this role in a high frequency. And then you look at the red. Oh, this is the wisdom of my DNA, of my lineage, of like this vehicle. This is the wisdom of that. That's the red. So, but I would play with it. And beautiful too to look at the places where you have both red and black in the same gate or the same channel, because that's where you can kind of discover what's the difference when I have it just red or just black, compared with when I have both. So if you have any place in your chart where you have both, there is something about cracking the code in that place, is what I feel.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
And anybody on the call, I mean, adding to this, there's those questions were so good because they're basic questions, and sometimes there's also misunderstandings around them. So anybody who wants to add something or ask something to this, I think it's like we're in a really good place with those kind of basic concepts. So we're going to get to Ruth, but if anybody has anything to add to this, I would love to hear that here now.
I think one thing that I would add for like a lot of people that are wanting to like bridge the gap between human design and Gene Keys is it's important to to note or notice that they all stem from the I Ching, right? And so human design and gene keys are both, when you look at a gate and a hexagram, which comes from I Ching, and the gene key, they're the same thing. So if you want to pick up something from another system and be like, say, okay, I'm looking at my 50th gate in human design. Let me go into gene keys and see like what Richard says about this. And it I mean, for those of us that have been doing it, it seems very like, oh yeah, of course. But a lot of people that are brand new to this, they don't know that they're connected, you know? They have no idea. And it's just, I mean, it's astrology too. Like you can even go deeper into the astrology aspects of it. I mean, we won't go into that, but the thing that's different about gene key or about human design is that it takes 88 days before your birth. And that's what makes the red side, the design side, right? So we have the personality side that you see on all of those astrology charts. You see that, and what it's adding is another layer of complexity and another layer of, you know, of you. And that's what defines those centers, is when you have those unconscious and conscious coming together to create the definition in your centers. And human design is just a way for you to understand, how does my energy work, how does it flow? And you can look and see, where is it flowing through the centers? Whenever you have a split where it's like island up here and islands down here, you're going to know that what's going to bridge that split is by being in relationship. And so people that have splits, if they have a triple split, a regular split, or a quadruple split, you're going to want to be around people. And we came here for relationships and for relating. People who have single definition and are very defined, it's going to be really hard for you to like think that it's worth it to get into relationships. So that's going to be your area of exploration. Like for me, I'm a single definition 5-1 with a bunch of centers defined. So it's not always my go-to, like, oh, let me like be with other people and collaborate and teamwork and all that, because I literally don't need anything from anyone else, like to make my energy flow through me. But it also creates a lot of challenges because I have a lot of channels. I forgot your name, Avantika. She was talking about the gates, you know, when they come together, it makes a channel, and that's like your superpower. But when you have so many, you're going to have to go into those and make sure that you're bringing forth your greatest expression. If you have a lot of defined centers, you're emoting that, you're putting that out there into the world, and everyone with their openness is taking that in. And so you are impacting the world by you just being you. So it's important for us to like go in and understand ourselves and know, using the gene key frequencies, those are amazing. Like Ra doesn't have these different frequency bands. It's just like this one expression. And sometimes it's not a very like pleasing expression, like the way that he defines it doesn't feel empowering. Whereas Richard, if you go into his frequencies, we have a shadow, a gift, and a city. So we can see, am I in the shadow? Am I in the repressive? Am I in the reactive? And then you can kind of break the pattern that you've had to kind of get yourself into the gift. And it's not about like pushing away the shadow, it's like integrating it, just like our trauma, integrating it. And it's from that integration where you're planting that seed inside of you and you're saying, I'm going to nurture you like you were never nurtured before. And you're going to grow and bloom into this beautiful tree, and you're going to give me fruit. And that fruit is what I get to share with the world. But if you are fragmenting yourself and pushing away your shadows, or like unconsciously expressing your shadows, then that's what everybody that is interacting with you is ingesting. It's like we're all digesting life. And Philippe, he was saying like he's going into PHS, and this is all about, we have your environment that's in it. And so I think that PHS is a lot about how you digest life. And so you are constantly interacting with your environment, interacting with people, digesting these things. And not only that, but everything you're putting out, people are digesting as well. So I think it's really important for us to take responsibility for how we show up in the world, whether we're interacting with people or not, whether we're social distancing or not, staying in our homes, doesn't matter. Our energy it's being put out there. Emotional authority, you're putting out your emotions in the world, and people are feeling it. And the same thing with the sacral beings. You guys are, if you're being a workhorse, you're like work, you are putting a lot of pressure out there for other people to like grab onto that and do that, or people that have the defined will. You guys are putting out whatever your motivation, whatever your worthiness is. If you feel really crummy about yourself and you're around, but that's what the people with the open wills will feel. you know, is that sense of unworthiness, and that's being put out there. So people are eating the energy you're putting out. So to know how your energy works is like foundational. And that's why we're going into strategy and authority and the centers, because I think it's the foundation of everything. And that's what makes us responsible human beings, is by knowing what we are generating inside of us and putting out. And like Ruth is a reflector, completely open. She's kind of that temperature, that barometer, like, how are we doing here? You know, because she's absorbing everything, or at least taking it in and sampling it and being like, all right, what's going on here? You know, and her state of being is also an indication of the world's state of being. So I think that, again, this is all super, super important, because it's important for us to be responsible human beings. So that's what I wanted to add to this. So thanks for opening that up.
Thank you, Ashley. And one of the things that you said that is important is wherever there is openness, we are filtering energy from the outside, and it can, we do pick up on the conditioning, on the pressure, and everything that is in the environment and other people. And wherever we have a defined center, and that's what we were saying from the beginning, is where, you know, your energy goes out in the world and influences the world and goes into other people's openness. So really that distinction when it comes to definition and openness, it's the direction of energy that is opposite, basically. Yeah, thank you, Ashley. So let's go to Ruth, our 4-6 reflector.
Hey there. Actually, you know, if I'm talking about the collective, I think everything is pretty good right now. But I'm curious, because this reflector strategy is still something that I go back and forth with. I've had people talk about using the sounding board, where you talk about things, but I guess we do it for 28 days. So I still play with that. And I'm a quad right, so any sort of structure I bring into my life kind of falls away, and I think, okay. And I don't know how many planners I have, where it's like, okay, I'm going to track this decision, and I'll write down day 1, because this is what they say to do. So I write it down. I get to about day 7. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And then like 6 weeks later, it's like, oh, right, I was thinking about that. I feel like doing it now. And I have yet to find something that works really well, just for me to do those major decisions, other than going, I haven't thought about this in a while. Let's decide right now. Sometimes talking it out like a mental projector helps. But mostly my motivation is guilt, which, mostly I just kind of flow around and work with what's in front of me, which means I kind of putter from place to place and this and that. And I find, and this is something this has been before human design, that if I procrastinate, I tend to make better decisions. When I'm constantly being reinforced for procrastinating and putting off this and pulling together stuff at the last minute. So the question in there, I don't even know if it's even practical for most people on this call, but it's just making decisions when there is so much openness. And I can say, people give me all sorts of tools for bringing consistency and structure, and I can't do it. I try. I'm great at a few things. I mean, my clothes are hung by color in the closet, but with life stuff, it's not. So yeah, just anything that might be of useful for people who have a lot of openness or guilt motivation or 4-6s. I think I'm the only reflector on this call. I don't think Nadine's here.
Thank you, Ruth. Where is your second gene key?
That's my radiance.
That's your radiance. So in order for you to have a radiant aura, in order for you to shine in the world, you're here to orient in every single moment in a feminine way. Like I say this because, the 2.6 is my Chiron, and then the 2.4 is my life's work. So it's a very feminine way of orienting in every moment. And then what I do want to tell you, because motivation is rave psychology. We have been speaking PHS, we've been speaking about outer environment today. So when we come to rave psychology, that's motivation. And what I see for you when you have the motivation, when you have a motivation, because it's the mind, and what I was saying before to Avantika is that the mind can corrupt things, and the mind is always going to go into transference. So of course you are going to be in the transference of hope, kind of just be hoping that things are, kind of going to go the way they are supposed to be. Your true motivation is guilt. And the way that I would explain that is to be practical. So think about the second gene key, it's prime yin. It's orienting with intuition every moment. If you were the mother of earth, or if you're the mother to a child, you are going to be practical. Like the child you need to have that thing that you can heat up the milk, or, whatever it is, there is a practicality around it that comes with it. For me, the motivation of guilt is to be practical. And sometimes if you're too much in the flow of hope and thinking it's all going to be okay, you're not going to have that, like that thing with the milk when you really need to drink it. So think about kind of being your own parent, where you want to bring in practicality. And this is also, I guess I said before that motivation is a lot for the world as well, but there is something practical. You have the 2, the 1, the 13, and the 7 in your activation sequence in your incarnation cross. You are here to show what direction for the world. And there is a practical direction in you, that you are here to show. And that I know that you have as a Sphinx. So somehow tune into practicality together with that orientation in every moment. That would be my, kind of recipe for how you can do it without imposing a structure. I'm a Sphinx. I hate to be imposed a structure, like I am doing in a weird structure many times because I don't like it. I'm not here to be living that way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm actually pretty practical about a lot of things. And especially, and I think I see my true self much better when I raised my kids. They're adults now, but I was very, I was the person you wanted around in any emergency, because I knew exactly what to do and never got worked up. And I was a nurse for a lot of years in an emergency children's hospital. So yeah, actually, now that you've said it that way, I feel a little bit better about it, because I thought I don't know how to use this motivation. And yeah, thank you. That's quite a bit of clarity.
You're welcome. Okay, let's take maybe 5. How much time do we have, Ashley and Simone? Like, do you have 5-10 more minutes, or should we wrap up? What's?
I think we have time for one more question, and because we are doing the Tesla wave healing at 30 past, so that'll be.
So Ashley,
one more question would be good.
Are we taking? Is there anybody else than Avantika, somebody who hasn't asked anything, that feels like, oh, now is the time, feeling the pull to ask something? Yeah, Louise, go for it.
Hi guys, nice to see you all. Yeah, it was something quite practical. Well, quite practical. So I've got practical in my head because Ruth was just speaking, and my 5-1 was going, I have so many solutions for you. I have so many solutions for you. Be quiet, Louise, be quiet. I was wondering about so I'm a generator, and over the last year, I've set up about 5 different groups, just like Facebook groups, like to Zoom with people and do things like dancing and like other things that I'm interested in. And it's not in a response to anybody. And so I'm setting these groups up, and then people are like coming in, and they kind of then become a co-creation once they're happening. But it's because it's not a response. So I'm like, I feel like I'm responding to my feminine need to bring people together and create and play. And so I feel like that's the masculine kind of creating that structure. And I don't know, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that, because I was like, should I stop creating these groups? And they're just, they're just fun, and they just bring connection to me. But I'm just curious about what you would say about that.
I feel like Ashley might have something because she's a 5-1, but I mean, yeah, do you feel like you have a spontaneous something spontaneous, Ashley?
No, you go first.
I mean, I feel like I need to know more about your chart in order to know why you're doing this and how it's nurturing you or how it's so I don't have an intuitive hit of it. I would need to hear a little bit more, I believe, in order to be able to tap in. Like, you're creating these groups because it's fun, and what's else in there?
Well, I think it's it feels like a kind of like a need for me. It's like it's mostly about connection. It's creating connection.
Mhm.
It's like I want to dance like
Mhm.
every morning at 9 o'clock. Who can I dance with? Like, who else wants to do it? So it's because I really want to do that. So it's just this kind of, and then I do it, and then I do it, and people come in, and then different people bring different songs and stuff. So it becomes this.
So what could be wrong with it? Like, why are you making it a problem? Like, why aren't you like, it seems like you found something you want to do. There are people that want to do it with you, and it's fun. Like,
Yeah,
there's nothing
totally.
better.
It's more just the confusion around the responding thing. It's just
Oh,
that.
okay.
It's about like the response bit, which I'm curious because I'm responding to my like feminine needs, if you like and my inner
And
child.
are you a generator?
Yeah,
I mean, I go back to what I said in the beginning. When you are in flow and that things are building, a generator is here to build. You are
yeah,
here in flow and something is building. People are coming. There is a co-creation. Co-creation. That's for me. Like, I don't need, again, to like bind myself and say, oh my God, what if I'm initiating this? I should stop. No, I'm dancing, I'm creating, I'm building, and people are there with me, and we are in feminine flow, which this world is so much missing. Like,
mhm.
For me, that's
Yeah,
the
totally. I feel that totally. Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, that's what my thing is. I just keep getting stuck on this thing of like, oh, am I I'm supposed to be responding to things, but
if you go to bed and be like, oh my God, I spent like half the day on this thing, and it's not paying me, it's not late. Like, if you go to bed and you feel drained, I was a little bit like that when I was like in a bad relationship. I would spend 5 hours in the gym in the morning, and I was like, yeah, but I'm healthy, I'm working out, I know people at the gym, like I'm doing the sauna, I'm taking care of myself. Until I realized when I went to bed, I was still exhausted, and that I was hiding away in the gym because I didn't want to face what was there. So it's kind of that thing, on a daily basis. Is this an escape? Is this a drain, or is it actually creating true valuable satisfaction for you? So I would say, there's a little bit of like that questioning also over time, if this is eating your time or if it's true nurturing and fun and build.
yeah, great, cool. That's super useful. Thank you.
So I'm kind of confused about all the what do you mean all the groups? So there's like multiple groups that you're creating, or can everything be in like the same container? Because I've seen you doing your dancing things where you just get on and dance on Facebook. So it's just like if you went to a club and then just dance with different people, can it like all be in the same, can it all be housed under the same container instead of like in different places? Am I understanding like the group thing correctly?
Yeah, no, it's yeah, so I've got like a WhatsApp, and then there's just these various things that I do. So and yeah, one's a meditation, one's dancing, there's another meditation and stuff as well. So
Sounds like your brand, and sounds like you should have one Facebook group or one group somewhere, and then offer these like Monday's gonna be this and Tuesday's gonna, and it doesn't have to be structured either. You can decide like right now I feel like dancing, and right now I feel like this, like who wants to join me, and like make that your playground instead of like niching yourself in different. It's just like put it together, and if anyone wants to experience you, they like come into your house, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, that's a whole big thing.
I think it's worthy to explore, like get rid of like whatever stories you're telling yourself, because this is expanding into like, doing business by design, because you can't like hide away in different compartments. Like sometimes all the walls need to come down so that the people that are in the meditation thing can experience you in the, because you're kind of keeping them in the little box with you, and they're not getting to even, some people probably don't even know what's happening over here, so you need to
I think it's this thing of like, I call it kind of like being on the bridge of the spiritual and the practical. And a lot of the people I work with are much more on that kind of like, the beginning part of their journey. So, you do something very kind of simple, like a mindfulness meditation or whatever. And then like some of the meditations I do, they're more Osho based. So they're like dynamic, anger releasing, like really like, So there's this like, so for me, it is a part of, there's parts of me that I'm hiding still.
Yeah.
Because also it's just.
Because you think you're going to get burned at the stake or something? You 5'1".
Oh, yes, of course.
I know, but we're not doing people any good minimizing who we are and like watering down because maybe they can't take it. Like if you're fully expressed in all these different areas, you don't need to like box it up, because then you're not being fully expressed, and people are not. It's like you can't dictate what their edge is. You got to just like, if you're too much for them, then you're too much. And maybe they'll go back. Oh, I know that on Monday she does this. I'm just going to do this. And it's like taking yoga classes. Like, I think I'm going to try hot yoga. Oh my God, that was too crazy. I don't think I'm going to do it, even though I love hot yoga. But I mean, let them know what you have and then let them decide. You don't need to decide for them what's too much. Like, that's who you are. So just let them taste you when they want to. And if it's too much for them, then then they won't put that hot sauce in their soup. They'll be like, all right, I'm just going to go back to vanilla. That's what I like. So.
Yes.
It's scary, but it's cool. It's cool being able to show up and just be you and be yourself. It's way more liberating than like watering down for people.
Yeah, thank you.
That word has been big the last 10 days. That the dilute, no, what is it called? Like, when you have something concentrated and you're making it
diluted.
Yeah, diluted. It's been like huge words the last 10 days. Like when Simone and I was working, and like, so there's something there. Don't water down your essence, your uniqueness. I feel like that's, and with the square that is coming in again in Uranus and Saturn, it's like, you are here to be uniquely you. You don't have to be limited by what Saturn said sometimes in the past, But Ashley, I'm wondering, would you tell everybody like where we are going? Because this was like a dynamic, super fun, super like colorful conversation, but where are we going on Mondays after today?
Yeah, so today was kind of like an opening up discussion for strategy and authority. And actually the trajectory for the rest of the year is we're going to be moving into these foundational information, right, for human design. But obviously we're all about bridging the gap between Gene Keys and human design, so we're going to weave it. But where we're going next Monday is we're going to take a journey through all of like strategy and authority, and through all the different types and all the different authorities. And this is happening inside the Inner Circle, which is our membership community, and it's as low as $33 a month or $44 monthly if you just want to join and cancel anytime. So this is all happening there, but then we are also having another option where you can just buy strategy and authority outright. It's not where you can just buy your strategy and authority type. It's like the whole kit and caboodle. So understanding all of them is kind of what's important in the goal for this. So it's not like pick one and be done. It's like everything. So if you're interested in human design, and also, I mean, it's important for the people that you're around, like that your partners, your kids, like everyone. And if you're trying to utilize it in your business, this is foundational. It's like step one, like understand strategy and authority. So we're going here next. And if you want to join the Inner Circle, you can reach out to hello@unlockyourdesign.com and we'll give you a special link, or you can just reach out to us on Facebook if you think you're going to want to do that. So it's like $44 a month if you're just going to keep going on a month-to-month basis and decide, when you want to stop, when you want to go. We're starting with strategy authority. Later we'll do centers. So it'll be like 3 months of strategy and authority, really going deep in that with discussion like this, which will be super, super fun, super dynamic. And it's not just about, oh, I'm not a manifestor, so I'm not going to come on that call. It's like, if you love a manifestor, if you're in relationship with a manifestor, if you're in partnership, it's like manifestors will be in your life regardless. So like knowing how to love them, knowing how to be with them, knowing if you're a manifestor, knowing, how to feel like an empowered manifestor, that's going to be important. And we'd love to have that dynamic discussion, and it's not just about that one type being invited to the call. So that'll be kind of the format, is you'll get a video and then we'll have like a discussion around it, and that'll be over the course of 3 months, and then we'll go into centers. So you can join us in the inner circle or buy the course outright and just get it kind of dripped as we're like unlocking it, you know. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can reach out to us and we'll give you more information about that. But if you're in BBD, you already have it. If you're in pod, you're already in the inner circle. So any of our like longer term year-long immersions, you guys have this already. So this is for people.
Or if you join that, still you're also gonna get this. If you join for the whole long course, you get this with it. And also I was gonna say, you have not seen us go live with Simone lately for the soul communication. We have been doing it on Clubhouse, but there's also a part of the centers and this, so then the Australian Authority, that when we meet for discussion, we're closing the call every time with Simone's tuning in to the soul archetype. So for you that have been missing her live, and you know, her and me having those conversations, this is also an opportunity to have it, you know, every other week, and not just, you know, having to see when we're going live on Facebook. So that's something I'm looking forward to as well.
Simone, did you want to close out and say anything about soul communication and then an invitation to Tesla waves?
1 minute.
No,
1 minute.
Join us. Come play with us. So well, the soul communication, you know, I'm living my 4-6 projector strategy and authority, bringing living the future and through my heart and bringing that wisdom in. Would love for you guys to continue that transmission with us. And Tesla waves, we'll be using Tesla waves as a healing modality. So once a month, I'll be doing the Tesla waves in a session. And if you're interested, I have a whole write-up on how that connects gene keys, human design, the I Ching, and your journey to unite with your DNA. I think I did it.
Great. Ashley, is it another link? Is it the same link? What's happening now? We get
okay, never mind. If you got an email from us, go back to your email and there's a link for Tesla. We'll post it in the comment of this video on Facebook as well. But I think we're going live with that anyways, so we'll be on Facebook with Simone doing her Tesla healing. So join us if you want, and if you have any questions, reach out to us about strategy and authority or the inner circle. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
everybody. Ciao, ciao.